cactus and succulent growers, I'm Lynn. Welcome to Desert Plants of Avalon in the north of Ireland. And in today's video, just a quick video potting up my Stapelia grandiflora cuttings and also talking a little bit about this particular, about Stapelia in general. Now, first of all, these are three sort of clumps from my main mother plant of Stapelia grandiflora. And when I was repotting it a couple of weeks ago, it sort of fell apart, which is very normal with Stapelias. They sort of, the branches sort of come away. And I just put them into a dish and put them under the table. And checking them, and now I can see that they're actually already starting to root. They're starting to send out little nubs along here, which is what they do. It's like a trailing plant, that's sort of like a sprawling type of shrubby type of succulent, and it's forming its little roots. So I've got the pot here, a nice little shallow pan pot, which is going to be perfect for these cuttings. Now, Stapelias are succulent plants mostly from South Africa. They're also found in other parts of Africa as well, but mostly South Africa. And in my experience, they're not the most easiest of succulent plants to grow. Now, I just want to mention that Stapelia is not a cactus in any form. It's purely just a succulent. And the Stapelias are often wrongly sold as cactus because they can be a little bit cactus look-alike, but they don't have areoles that cacti have. Areoles is where the little spines come out of, and I'll just show you here. This is a classic example of an areole with a spine coming out of. Stapelias don't have areoles, they don't have spines. And they're also a succulent as well that does prefer a little bit more shade than a lot of succulents and cacti do. This is one that prefers a bit of an indirect bright light position. Can definitely take some sun, especially here in Ireland where our sun is never really strong. But it prefers either a bit of morning sun or late afternoon sun. Avoid midday sunshine where it can scorch. So if you have Stapelia in a greenhouse or in a window against the glass, do protect it from the midday sun in the summertime. But a bright position away from very strong, intense sun is ideal for these. They love a very, very wet, very well draining soil. And this is an absolute must for Stapelias because they are rot magnets. They can rot so easily, and they're also very prone to getting something called sort of black rot as well. They've got these black patches on them. Stapelias are very prone to that. Too much humidity as well can cause a lot of fungus and mold issues with Stapelia. So it's absolutely essential that the soil you use is very, very well draining and dries out very fast. I use a soil mix of 3 equal parts of a loam-based soil, LOAM. I use John Innes #2, mixed with grit or pumice, whichever I've got, and also sand at 3 equal parts. I've got the soil in here now at the bottom there. And when it comes to the watering, I don't water any of my Stapelias at all. From sort of a little bit later on than the cacti, I would give them the last water at the end of September. I stop with the cacti, the majority of my succulents in the middle of September. Stapelias, as I mentioned, for me anyway, tend to flower more very late summer, early fall. So I would just stop watering at the end of September, and then I don't give any water then until the beginning of April. And that's because they have a winter rest. Although they will flower sort of in the fall for me, I still would not water them past once September is gone, because they do need to dry out for the winter rest. Being too damp in the soil, especially over the winter months, once they've come to the winter rest, they can inevitably rot. And they're also as well, again, this is only in my experience, not the most cold hardy. A lot of people, I'm sure, would disagree with me, but I find that 10°C, 50°F is a minimum for the winter for these, even when they are kept dry. And that's because in the past, when I've kept these in a greenhouse, when I lived in England with my Stapelias, they would tend to get that black rot and just rot back, even when they were dry over the winter. They don't seem to like the cold. But I have a lot of high humidity here in Ireland and the UK. Maybe if you live in a more desert type of dry air environment, these can take much colder temperatures if kept dry. But if you live in a northern hemisphere climate such as myself and you have Stapelias, do bring them indoors for the winter months, because I think they will do better at a minimum of 10 Celsius, 50 Fahrenheit, to avoid any issues. Saying that, I do know growers who have Stapelia in unheated greenhouses here in Ireland, and they say to me, Lynn, mine do absolutely fine, just keep them dry. But I've had problems with mine, so this is why I'm mentioning this. This is only my care advice to you. It's not what always works for every grower. So that's the temperatures. Can take plenty of heat during the summer, as long as I mentioned protect them from midday sun, because they tend to go a little, they can burn. I find they go a little bit pale and can get burn marks even here in Ireland. So I would put this in a position in the greenhouse out in the spring and summer that has a little bit more shade, maybe a little bit under the table with some of the other succulents. And fertilising, I like to give a week strength tomato feed with every third watering in the spring and summer. That helps to encourage the blooms. And the blooms on Stapelias, if you're not familiar with them, they are well, from one good point, they're the most beautiful, incredible, stunning blooms that you can imagine. They are very, very, very beautiful. The downside, they stink flipping awful, guys. They have the most horrendous smell. So if you have Stapelia in your living room window or anywhere in your house, you know, be prepared that it's going to stink the house out, because the only way I can describe the smell, it smells like dirty, rotten socks. Imagine really bad socks that have never been washed, just stuck there by the washing machine waiting to be washed, building up with the smell. It's vile. And the reason why they produce this disgusting scent is because they attract flies. They fall flies to pollinate the flowers by tricking the flies by the scent, that to encourage the flies to land on it, because the scent is like decaying flesh. So flies think it's rotting flesh. They smell it, and even the flowers are often a very dark colour, although they're very beautiful. And the flies will land on it and lay their larvae on these flowers, thinking that it's rotting meat, rotting flesh, when in fact it's not. And it's to trick the flies into pollinating the flowers. Nature is absolutely incredible, guys, because how nature can create a flower that actually mimics the smell of rotting flesh. Now, I'm saying the smell of disgusting, rotten, unwashed socks, but that is like the smell of decaying flesh, I guess. It's just incredible. Nature is just on another level anyway. But the flowers are magnificent. The beauty, in my opinion, outweighs the smell. But just bear that in mind if you have these indoors. I have mine in the polytunnel. So the smell, you know, might smell in the garden and neighbours might smell it, I don't know, but at least it's not in the house. Anyway, enough of my waffle there. So now I'm going to be potting them up, and although I'm calling these cuttings, they are more offsets that fell apart when I went to pot up the mother plant. Not a problem, because they're easy to pull apart and easy to pot up. That's the easiest way to propagate them. And as you can see, the little nubs of roots already coming through. Same with this one on here there. So obviously a shallow pot is a necessity for Stapelia. You don't need a deep pot, because again, they're very, very, very rot prone. So I've just put a little bit of about an inch of soil at the bottom there. And it's really important there that these roots, because it's a shrub, it grows like it is a shrub type of succulent. It's a sprawling succulent, so it's sprawl along. It's not one that will grow taller and taller. So I want to make sure that these nubs here with these roots are resting against the soil like that. So I'm just pressing that in there. And the same with these as well. I'll push it a little bit more across there, and then this one is going to do the same. I'm going to put that like this on there, and I'm going to put the soil around, and I've got this little one here as well. It's also producing little nubby roots, so that one I'm going to just nest here, and now I'm going to fill up with soil around it to make sure that it's all tucked in, and it's not going to look lovely. It will eventually fill the whole pot in time as well, so it make a lovely arrangement. soil put around. I'm just going to gently push that in there. And turn it round. As I'm not going to put too much soil above the level here, as I say, because they are very rot prone. And I have to mention as well, one thing I didn't mention was pests, but I have to really mention it. If there is a plant, a succulent plant that is a mealybug magnet, then it is definitely, besides Hoyas, it's definitely Stapelias. If you have Stapelias in your collection, and I'm sure there's not a Stapelia grower who has not experienced mealybug on their Stapelia at some point, because they just really are mealybug magnets. This one is quite clean, but I have had mealybug on it in the past, the mother plant anyway. And what I do then is I remove them with rubbing alcohol. I'll put a little bit into a bowl with a little brush and dab the rubbing alcohol, the isopropyl alcohol, and that will melt and kill the mealybugs on contact. Because mealybug, I don't know what it is with Stapelias, they just love the taste of them, and you won't necessarily see the mealybugs on the outside, you'll see them when you pull them apart. But if you have Stapelia, do make sure you check regularly, just gently tease away apart these stems here and have a look and check for mealybug. Just gently pull apart as if you're checking for head lice on a child. And you will see that the mealybugs will hide right low down in between these little segments, because they hide where they know you're not going to see them. Now, that's it. And that's all the soil I'm putting on there. As I say, the base is touching the soil. Now, because they've rooted, I would normally, when I repot cacti and succulents, as I always mention, I leave it a week or two before watering. But the reason for that is because I'm disturbing the roots and you want the roots to settle in. This is absolutely fine now because it's got little roots forming. I haven't had to disturb anything but just plant it up. So it needs to start setting, the roots need to come in, the tiny nibs of roots, I should say, need to come into contact with a bit of dampness. So I'm just going to very lightly spray the top surface of the soil now and get this started up. It will then send out more of the roots and encourage the little nubs of the roots to grow even more. So now I'm just going to very gently spray it with a bit of water. And the reason why I'm not going ahead and watering it as normal, as you can see, it's only got tiny little feeder nubs coming through. So giving a bit of a spray on the top here would just help them little nubs of roots forming to grow more. And that's it. Happy days. And then we'll be taking that out into the polytunnel with all the other type of cacti and succulents I've got in there. In the next few days, once the chance of the very cold weather has passed, should be through it now, and that's going to look lovely. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. For lots more tips and tricks, don't forget to subscribe. Do click the notification bell. You can also follow me on Insta, Twitter and Facebook at Desert Plants of Avalon, and do check my website out for lots of articles on there and blogs, desertplantsofavalon.com. I want to wish you all a fantastic plant-powered day.